Hello and welcome. I'm Matthew from Rosie and Rosie, investment property specialists, helping you invest in property with confidence. Join us as we interview local experts from within the real estate industry and share with you the insights and practical tips to give you the edge when it comes to buying, selling or renting your investment property. Today we're joined by Building Inspector Omar Raslan from Key Property Inspections. Welcome Omar, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Matt. Happy to be here.
Omar, today I wanted to talk to you about building inspections. As investors and home buyers, what are they, when should we get one and why? So Omar, what exactly is a building inspection and what do you look for?
Okay. On a building inspection, the main areas that get checked are the interior, the exterior, the roof void, the roof exterior, the site, and the subfloor. And whilst inspecting all these areas in an inspection, we are looking for major and minor defects. So I'll explain what a major defect is. A major defect is an item or an issue or a problem that will either cause the new buyer, a financial burden, create a safety hazard, or will cause it to further deteriorate and affect other components. A minor defect is pretty much everything else. Obviously, at not such a serious level. So a building inspection will identify the major defects and present them in a way that the potential buyer has a good understanding of what may require immediate attention or may require ongoing general maintenance. These can be serious things, these can be quite minor things. It all really depends on how the building inspection is delivered to the client. So they ultimately have got good confidence in what they're buying and understand the level of commitment they're making when purchasing property.
Yep. Can make an informed decision and adjust their offer accordingly.
Should they choose to.
Yep. Great. What exactly does a building inspector look for when inspecting a property?
Okay, ultimately a building inspection goes through a property and compiles a list of major and minor defects. So to understand what a major or a minor defect is, a major defect is an item that has got a defect on it which will cause it to either cost the client money to repair, cause ongoing issues, which could also then be costly, or create a safety hazard. A minor defect is pretty much any other defect. When we compile a report, we put together the list of the major defects, and these then in turn are issues that the clients will have to take into account when buying the property. We then take it that one step further and we'll look to identify the cause and the issues of the major defects and to what extent they're at. And we relay that back to the client so they've got a very good understanding and are therefore then confident when purchasing the property.
Thanks. So what kind of things do people most often overlook when inspecting a home?
Okay. When people go through homes, they overlook things like unevenness of the floors. They will often miss out, cracked or broken tiles. But one really large thing is the grout within tiles. I know it sounds like something that's quite small and minuscule, and the reality is though, if the grout is damaged, then there's going to be water egress into that and then going in behind the tiles. Sooner or later, you're going to have a loose or a drummy tile, or it's going to crack, and you're going to have moisture build up behind the tile. Again, sounds like a small issue, but something that can be quite costly and cause bigger problems down the track.
Good. So what sort of warning signs should people look out for when they're inspecting a home?
So if you're going in on an open inspection, one tip I give people is always look out at the gutters. That's obviously a big telltale sign. If it's a really nice dry day, you can't really tell or make that much comment on the drainage on the property and drainage on the gutters, but you should be able to tell to see if there's been some rust or corrosion on the gutters. And what you would really look for is if there is a pattern or damage under or around the gutter. Again, this is something that may seem quite small, but if you've got a rusted gutter or a damaged downpipe, which is letting water out at the foundation, that's going to cause you a lot of problems down the track.
So water again.
Water egress. Water egress is again, doesn't sound like such a serious issue, but can cause major problems down the track. And ultimately, most of the problems within a house, so if you've got cracking in the house, if you've got damaged foundations, if you've got timber in the house, water is what will cause it to deteriorate further, and the further deterioration will then also cause some ongoing maintenance issues. Not to mention, it makes it an attractive haven for termites.
Okay. So at what point should people consider getting a building inspector?
Generally, once you've made an offer on a property and the vendor has accepted your offer, a cooling off period will begin, and most building inspectors will act within that cooling off period. However, you're welcome to get a building inspection at any point. If the property is going to auction, you can get at any point leading up to the auction. If you're extremely confident that your offer is going to be accepted, you could get the inspection before you even make an offer. More often than not, the agent and vendor will be more accommodating to an inspection once an offer has been made, because they know that the client is serious, genuine, and confident, and then more than happy to allow someone into the home to inspect it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. It's not just buyers though who could do with a building inspection. Tell us why a seller might want to get one.
Okay. A really good idea for a vendor looking to list their property is to get an inspection, because they can then identify any issues or problems before they even go to market. Because the building inspections are becoming a lot more popular. If you have a property and an inspector comes along, 9 times out of 10, inspectors are going to identify the same sort of problems, and this could potentially cause a buyer to cool off, negotiate, or slow down the process. And as a vendor, you don't want any of that. So save the time, save the hassle, get an inspection to begin with. And if you are able to, take the inspector's advice and rectify and repair the problems if you could. If you don't, at least you can then go forward to market and say, look, we've already inspected the property, we are already aware of these issues, if the house has been priced accordingly, with these issues in mind. Again, not for every vendor. Some vendors, are happy to take the risk, but realistically, an inspector is going to find the problems. You may as well be ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. So what can you tell us that most building inspectors wouldn't want us to know?
Unfortunately, when doing an inspection, there's a lot of unknowns. We'll take every measure to inspect every part of the property. And this means including the roof void, getting inside the roof and checking every component of the roof. This means checking the subfloor if it's available. But unfortunately, if the roof void has got some very heavy ducting, has got low height clearance, or the manhole is just simply inaccessible, then our inspection is going to be extremely limited. So we can only report on the conditions at the time of inspection, and if those conditions don't allow us to give a full inspection, then it's going to be limited. The subfloor, is also very there's a very minimal chance that we're going to have good, clear access to the subfloor. And once you've got lining, so floor covering, so you've got carpet, tiles, floorboards, then there's very minimal ways of telling exactly what's going on underneath there. Of course, to a trained inspector, there's ways of identifying certain issues and certain problems, and they'll make comments on that. But to be 100% certain, it's going to be a limited inspection. So no, I wouldn't say it's saying that inspectors don't want you to know, but this is the reality that people, I suppose, don't realise until after they've gotten the inspection, that unfortunately there's a lot of areas that we just can't see. Yep. So we're going to have to use our best judgment and our experience to be able to determine if there are any defects, and if there are no defects at all.
Great, thank you. So do you have any tips specifically for investors looking to purchase a property and considering a building inspection?
Okay. If you're specifically looking for the property for investment purposes, then I would obviously take into account the level of major defects that are going to cause you a problem. So if you're buying it for investment purposes, you don't want to have to replace the hot water system, replace the stove. Although these are plant equipment items that have got a lifespan anyway. So ultimately, you'd want to look at any major structural issues. I mentioned the gutters before. You don't want to have to change all the gutters of the house, nor do you want to have a quick, cheap fix-up, because you don't want to have to be called out, for a long-term problem. If you've got tenants in there, they're not going to be reporting back to you, the smallest inconvenience or issue, like as if it is your own home that you're living in. So my tip would be just look out for those sort of issues that are going to cause long-term and ongoing problems, and that are going to continue to deteriorate. you'd want to avoid them, or at least get an inspection, know what they are, and get them rectified before you chuck tenants in there.
Excellent. I might just add that not all building inspectors, but certainly key property inspections are also able to offer a depreciation schedule.
That's right. Yep.
Which you can, I guess, do at the same time, or organise the inspection for the depreciation schedule at the same time.
Yeah, by all means. Well, the way we handle our tax depreciation schedules is very methodic and systematic, like we do the inspections. So, as a result, we then get a very good result. When we're inspecting things. And if I was to do a building inspection and then the client was to follow on with a tax depreciation schedule after that, it just makes makes it obviously a little bit easier, less time consuming, and it means that I would have two opportunities to go over the property and identify what can and can't be used for a depreciation schedule.
Yep, excellent. And we'll have you back to talk further about depreciation schedules. But for now, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. But before we go, Omar, can you tell us a bit more about how people can get in touch with you or follow you?
Okay. We've got a website coming up, which is www.keypropertyinspections.com.au. So that's inspections with an S at the end. And that's the same domain for our Facebook and our Instagram accounts. So it's at keypropertyinspections.com.au. Sorry, just Key Property Inspections. My phone number is 0406 315 351, which is always the best way to get in touch with me. And my email address is omar@keypropertyinspections.com.au.
Fantastic. Thank you again for joining us today, and we certainly look forward to having you back. And thank you for joining us too. We hope you found Omar's industry insights to be useful. If you have any questions for Omar, I'm sure he'd be only too happy to hear from you. Similarly, if you have any questions, concerns, comments or feedback for us, please send them in, comment below, or email hello@rosieandrosie.com.au. We'd love to hear from you too. It's been a pleasure having you with us, but it's time for us to go. Until next time, I'm Matthew from Rosie and Rosie, helping you invest in property with confidence.